There's all sorts of pictures up here, aren't there? We got
Yes, ma'am.
Zoom going live here. We got Facebook over here.
We got some Instagram live.
Wow.
And you are live.
And
so
I am live.
Go with your Zoom. You're on.
Awesome. I appreciate it. First off, I just want to thank you for allowing us the opportunity to come here and to talk on this International Women's Day. Being a woman is a special thing, and having this platform to discuss some of the things that are close to my heart has been quite the process in trying to get it out into words. So thank you. As stated on the program, I do want to discuss as women feeling empowered within or by our feminine nature and biology. And this is a topic that's actually really close to my heart currently. I'm 32 weeks pregnant, carrying a little baby girl. And so if I start going off on some random tangent or you don't understand what I'm saying, pregnancy brain is real. And so I have lots of notes that I'm going to kind of go off of. But any of the listeners, if I start going off on something, just kind of reel me back in. So many of you that are participating in this conference can relate when I talk about how empowering our feminine biology is. You know, the sometimes crippling menstruation cramps or worrying about standing up in a crowd during the time of the month. Let's not even talk about some of the sicknesses that can come during pregnancy with morning sickness or 24-hour sickness for some of us. It's quite an empowering feeling. There's also that my little sister is actually quite well endowed, and she's always telling me about how she has to wear double sports bras when exercising because of this empowering biology that we as women have. But in all seriousness, well, there says you're low. Hold on. Camilla, is that? I think this is recording. Sorry, something just popped up on the screen. I just hit that. Hopefully that doesn't do anything. But in all seriousness, being a woman can be an absolutely incredible thing. Before I get too far into the topic, though, I want to discuss the story about how I came to know that I was a woman. Despite my curled hair and my lipsy makeup, growing up, I was the definition of a tomboy, and I was absolutely proud of it. I was proud of it because it meant that people saw me as being strong. And on the schoolyard playground, I loved to play football. And I could play football with the best of the boys. I could throw as far, I could tackle as hard, and I could honestly smack talk with the best of them. But I loved it, and I loved that feeling of being strong, physically strong. But I remember walking home one day, and I was covered in head to foot in mud. I had just made this winning touchdown of a really important football game that I was playing in. And I remember walking around and mud was gushing around in my shoes, and all of a sudden this weight fell upon my shoulders. And at 11 years old, I could remember feeling different from all the other kids around me. Despite my talent in sports and my physical strength, I was not a boy, and nor did I want to be one. But as I looked at the examples of girls around me, and I looked at the girls at school and on the media, it was very clear in my little mind that I was also not the quote unquote normal girl. In fact, I saw a lot of girls as being weak, and something inside of me from my very first memories that I can remember hated the idea of being vulnerable. And this self-identity crisis plagued my mind for months until one day my mom told me this story. A few years earlier, she had a friend in the neighborhood. Her name was Kathleen, and it was springtime, and the neighborhood we just moved into was still being developed, so there was a lot of undeveloped land. And my mom's friend was making breakfast, and she looked out of her window, and she watched as I cut through her yard to get to school, and I was tromping through the 9 inches of mud. In her mind's eye, instead of seeing this little tomboy Kim, she saw a warrior princess. I was covered in armor, standing next to Joan of Arc, one of my personal heroes, knee-deep in mud and fighting for truth and righteousness. As my mom told me that, I immediately started to identify with this story. You know, I was a warrior. I am a warrior. You know, not just any warrior, I am a princess warrior. I am the perfect balance of strength and love, judgment and compassion. And this story gave me the framework to attach all the attributes I felt inside, but I couldn't put into words. And at the age of 11, I intrinsically knew that men and women are distinct and different. And I was a woman. a strong, independent warrior woman. Now, this framework that I developed through this story and through this conversation with my mom carried me into puberty, where the biological differences between me and the boys I grew up with became more pronounced. Their voices started to deepen. They seemed to be growing like a foot a year. They became more muscular. And at this time, my breasts started to grow. I started menstruating. I started getting all sorts of curves that weren't really conducive to the active lifestyle that I was accustomed to living. I would say my voice got higher, but if you're listening to me right now, you know that that's not a part of puberty I really went through, outside of the fact that I'm also sick. But but by the time I was 15, I had fully recognized that biologically I was different than my male counterparts. And as women, we are different. We are different from men. We are distinct from men. But our contributions are equally valuable and essential. And that is something that I truly believe in. And as a maternal feminist, we claim and embrace our unique feminine nature in biology. There's a quote from Kristen Cole Whitaker, who is a mother and an urban homesteader. And she says, "Being equal does not mean being the same. And at the same time, separate but equal doesn't apply to gender either. The unique and complex attributes of male and female are only realized when allowed a mutual respect, celebration, and interdependence. We don't become stronger by exclusion. We don't take back our power by putting men down. We flourish when we find our strength inside ourselves and then unapologetically begin sharing our gifts. We celebrate men. We foster relationships with them. At the same time, we love ourselves and we see that we are all gifted. As women and mothers, we have absolutely nothing to prove. The world needs to recognize what is already there, and the world needs to see the inexpressible value that already is." Such a cool statement. As I mentioned earlier, it is awesome being a woman. So I'm going to go kind of into like the biological stages of it. So do you know that around the age of 16 to 20 weeks pre-birth, a young female baby carries up to 7 million eggs in her teeny body? Like a baby that's 16 to 20 weeks old, they're like small. They hold within them 7 million eggs. And as I told you earlier, I am 32 weeks pregnant right now, and I'm carrying a little baby girl. So my little girl is carrying within her the perfectly formed blueprints of an entirely unique and amazing future person, my grandchild. And I, at the same time, am carrying my child. And so in essence, just listen to this already. In essence, I am carrying life into the third generation as we speak. Like, is that not like an absolute beautiful manifestation of our maternal power that we have, of that biological power that's within us? Talking about female biology, I've been doing a lot of study on birth and on the female body just because of the stage of life I'm in. And I came across the story of a lady named Mallory Smothers, who noticed that the color of her breast milk changed when her baby was sick. And I'm going to just read kind of what she posted on her Facebook page. And she says, "I read an article from a medical journal not too long ago about how mom's milks change to tailor baby's needs in more ways than just caloric intake." Where'd it go? So she was talking to a doctor, and she says, "So this doctor discussed that when a baby nurses, it creates a vacuum in which the infant's saliva sneaks into the mother's nipple. There it is believed that mammary gland receptors interpret the baby's spit backwash for bacteria and viruses. And if they detect something amiss, i.e. the baby is sick or fighting off an infection, mom's body will actually change the milk's composition, tailoring it to the baby's particular pathogens by producing customized antibodies." Like, if that is not amazing, like, we women have that natural biology just naturally within us. Like, it blew my mind to think about how cool that is. Excuse me. But as cool as our female bodies are, I also want to address how vulnerable they make us. And that's something that's been coming up quite a bit with the Me Too campaign and other social pushes currently. And so vulnerability, as I mentioned before, is always something that I have really struggled with. Like, I do not like the idea of being physically vulnerable. In fact, it's one of my biggest fears. So, however, despite how amazing and unique the female body is, it's kind of sad that there are so many countries currently still in our day and age where the birth of a girl results in death, simply because she is a female. There are countries where the men have put dowry systems in place that place cheap dollar amounts on the infinite value of these little girls. And it's like there's definite vulnerability that still currently exists because of our feminine biology. But when you add our naturally shared expression or experiences with menstruation, which in many cultures throughout the world is still seen as an evil and unclean thing, women are shunned from their rightful places within their homes, within their schools, and within their societies. And it will not be until we collectively claim and embrace our identity that we change the many negative cultural stereotypes associated with our bodies in this procreative power. One of the things that I feel is super important in this conversation is talking about the importance of balanced, interdependent relationships with men. A year ago, I was down in Ecuador at a United Nations conference. And I was listening to a presentation. It was titled The Three Environments. This presentation was actually primarily written by Carolina Allen, who you heard from a little bit earlier. And it was presented by Erica DeCaster, another member of Big Ocean. And the three environments is the maternal perspective rooted in the notion of the three environments: the womb, the home, and the larger economical worldview. And the presentation is actually an incredible presentation, and I wish I had time to go into it. But I highly suggest that you jump onto bigoceanwomen.org, and it was recorded and you can find it there. And totally worth your time to go check it out. So go check it out. But for sakes of this presentation, I want to kind of focus on the first environment of the womb. So once a woman becomes pregnant and starts to create this human life within her body, as a female, we accomplish great work by generating an entirely new organ, which is called the placenta. And it literally functions as the baby's digestive system, the immune system, the cardiovascular system, the respiratory system, the nervous system, the endocrine system, for the first 40 weeks of this baby's life as it is within our bodies. And this child is utterly dependent on the mother for its life. Vanessa Lawrenshaw, in talking about our social view on dependency, has this to say: "We refuse to see that what mothers do in reproducing the human race and caring for vulnerable dependent children is an important and necessary work. Indeed, dependency has become a dirty word rather than acknowledged as an intrinsic part of the human condition." And as I said, dependency is something that I've always feared. I like to be independent, but it definitely, that word has become a dirty word, as Vanessa has taught us. But indeed, as the child in the womb is dependent on the environment that I create as a mother, both me and the baby are deeply affected by the environment that is created between the mother and the father. And as man steps up and he protects and provides woman during this vulnerable time, he affirms a selfless paternal identity, and one of which is essential for all the environments to flourish, beginning with the first environment that we're talking about, of the womb. The feminine contribution is key, but so is the masculine. And within this duality, there is an intrinsic and intuitive understood balance of mutual care and respect. And there's a word they kept using, or a sentence they kept using and explaining this duality, this interdependence during this presentation. And it was a mother carrying a child and then the man carrying the woman. And I remember listening to that for the first time and just being blown away by the visual image, and just blown away by the reality of what could and should be existing in this time. Maternal feminists believe that motherhood begins at conception. Even as the female body creates and sustains this life, the responsibility of the male identity in claiming fatherhood is crucial to the success of this environment. As powerful and as essential as the role of the mother is in sustaining the environment of the womb, it is also a vulnerable state. There is tremendous energy involved in the mother creating the unique and separate organ of the placenta, as well as caring for her own body, even as it generates another body within. And she is physically challenged with the strain of this pregnancy. This vulnerability while carrying life is something I have and am currently experiencing firsthand. As it says in my bio online, and as some people have talked about, I'm usually a pretty active, healthy, independent individual. However, about 5 weeks into my pregnancy, I began to experience what is commonly known as morning sickness, or at least at the beginning, that's kind of what I thought it was. But as the days passed on and I continued to lose weight, and I couldn't keep down any food or any fluid, I went into my doctors, and it was determined that what I was experiencing was in fact worse than, or more severe than, common morning sickness. And I was diagnosed with, I apologize if I say this wrong, I still can't say it, hyperemesis gravidarum. And it's a condition that is characterized by severe nausea, vomiting, weight loss, electrolyte disturbance. Simply put, I went from being a very active, very healthy, very independent woman to throwing up 20 plus times a day, unable to get out of bed, unable to really do anything for myself. There's been points in this pregnancy that have gotten so bad that I can't even clean up my own throw up, or I can't even get my ice to chew on. And I have literally had to depend. I've been extremely vulnerable and completely dependent on the care of my husband and of my family for the basic necessities of life. And with the help of good medication and lots of continued rest over these last 6 months, I have gotten to the point where I'm now back to about 60% health on any given day. Something that I'm counting as a real blessing. The fact that I can even be standing up here or even sitting here is something that I see as a great blessing and something that doesn't happen every day. So as I have laid in bed during these times, and as I've been throwing up and too weak to even lift my head, Alan comes in and he's holding my sick body. The balance of the mutual care that I discussed a little bit earlier, involving a woman carrying the child and the man carrying the woman, has become my reality. Well, Alan by nature is a very loving man. As it says in my bio, we've had 14 foster sons. He has stepped up in his paternal roles in ways that most men are never asked to. And I've seen this from him, but I have never seen, I've never needed to see this protective, caring side of him that I have needed to during this pregnancy. He has affirmed a selfless paternal identity, and one that has been essential in the growth of our child. I could honestly go on and on about how much I have learned to rely upon my husband over the time, but it is sufficient to say that an interdependent relationship has been vital for the sustainability of this pregnancy. Unfortunately, and I acknowledge that not all pregnancies are created in a loving, independent relationship. In fact, according to the most recent U.S. Census, 23% of children are raised in single mother homes, a staggering statistic that points to the lack of mutual respect between the genders. This lack of respect comes with crippling consequences for the rising generation. Some statistics I found online on a website about fathers. It says that female children are 7 times more likely to get pregnant in high school if they don't have their father present. They're 2 times greater risk for infant mortality rate, and children in general are 270 times more likely to carry guns and deal drugs compared to their peers living with their fathers. So as women, what can we do? That always needs to be a question in our mind. This is not something that should be happening, but it is. So, what can we do? And this is where being empowered within our feminine nature can play a great part in embracing our feminine biology and healing our world. it is important to first recognize that the definition of a mother goes way beyond the scope of biological connection. Big Ocean defines a mother as any female who has the best interest of the rising generation at heart and willingly gives of herself to nourish and protect the rising generation. What a beautiful definition. Our true powers as a female come from within, and there are no external forces that can take it away. I hope that we can all recognize that our influence is vast, and yes, it extends to our immediate family and to our communities. But as women, our power can reach through the generations. We women are powerful. We have the ability to create life, and we also have the opportunity to sustain and defend it. But before I go on what we can do externally, I think it's important that we focus on what we can do internally in recognizing our individual strengths. And as we first have to acknowledge that it all starts from within. It is important that we focus on making thoughtful and intentional decisions every day. We understand that our decisions determine our destiny, and our positive legacies can position future generations in a place of peace and wholeness. This takes time, and I'm aware of that. But as women, it is imperative that we remain resolute and determined to recognize this power within. I can promise, because I have continued to work on my own inner strength, that as you do this as a woman, you will feel a deep satisfaction within yourself. There's a quote by Marianne Williams that I absolutely love, and it goes, it's pretty commonly quoted, often misattributed to, I believe it's Nelson Mandela. But Marianne Williamson said this: "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous?" And I'm going to echo her same question. Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God, and your playing small does not serve this world. There is nothing enlightening about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. And it is not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fears, our presence automatically liberates others. As women, we have this power within us, and it is absolutely up to us to recognize it. Carolina Allen, president of Big Ocean Women, uses this analogy of a chicken. So I'm going to have you close your eyes real quick, and I want you to imagine with me for just a moment that you are a chicken. A very busy chicken, but a chicken. And you're running around the farmyard and you're doing your thing, and you have all these chicks running around, both your own and your neighbors. And you look up and all of a sudden there's this storm rolling in. And you realize that there's not enough time to get both you and the chicks back to the coop before the rain hits. And so you start calling all the chicks to you, and you open up your little wings and you start shoveling them in and get them super close to you so you can protect them. And as it comes to the last few chicks, you feel like your wings are so expanded that you can't even fit any more in. But as you look up and you realize that the storm's there and there's all these little chicks left, you decide that you're going to reach out just a little bit further, and you're going to tuck a few more chicks underneath your wing. And just as you do that, and just as you get the last one down or underneath you, the rain starts to fall. As women, we are these hens, and when we recognize that we are powerful and capable of withstanding the storms of this life, we will have the ability to extend our reach and protect the rising generation. As we let our own light shine in these moments of darkness, we automatically make manifest the feminine nature within us. We sustain and we defend life, and our positive energy flows outward to impact those first closest to us and then impact the world. So going back to the beginning, there are some not so thrilling things that come with being a woman. I acknowledge that. The biological challenges are real. The vulnerability is real and can be crippling. But because of our biology, our dependence on others is at times an absolute necessity. Something that is not seen as a strength in our common society, in our overall society, but something that I am starting to see is empowering as we depend on those around us. And being a woman is amazing. We very literally are the givers of life. We are each one of us, every single one of us on this world, we were woman born. Think about it. All humanity has written into our very flesh the lasting testament of women's biological power and sacrifice, our navel. It is at the very center of our physical body and can act as a reminder at all times of the power that we as women hold. Outside of this biological power, we have the natural ability within us to influence generations. And that is a humbling and empowering thought. That's something I think about quite often, and it's definitely can be overwhelming at times, but also empowering. Like, we as women have within us the power to influence generations. And women, I want you to know that you, just as you are right now, are enough. You have the power right now within you to make a difference today, both for you, for those closest to you, and ultimately the world. Like, that is what we're celebrating today. We're celebrating International Women's Day because of this power that we have. And as we celebrate it, my hope is that you can feel empowered, not in spite of, but because of your feminine nature and biology. It looks like my time is wrapping to a close. So it's actually really good timing. I appreciate you sitting here.
Perfect.
But yeah, I hope you can feel that empowerment because of our biology and because of that nature. So I hope you enjoy International Women's Day. Thanks for putting this on. And yeah, it's been a pleasure.